So, the Spear Danes in days gone by and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. There was Shield Chiefson, scourge of many tribes, a wrecker of mead benches, rampaging among foes. This terror of the hall troops had come far. A foundling to start with, he would flourish later on as his powers waxed and his worth was proved. In the end, each clan on the outlying coasts beyond the Whale Road had to yield to him and begin to pay tribute. That was one good king. That, my friends, is the opening of the Seamus Heaney translation of Beowulf. My name is David, and welcome back to my channel, where I have spent the month of April reading 4 different translations of Beowulf, alongside Steve Donahue and Micah Cummins. It was an idea that the two of them had come up with on their own to spend the month of April doing that. And of course, with it being Beowulf, I had no choice but to send some severed orc heads to both of their houses and force my way in. And the weregild I would have put out because of it would have been pretty substantial. This is the translation. 2 Andal translations for Beowulf. If this is a poem that you are going to read one time and one time only, this is the one that I would point you to without question. It's been years since I had revisited this one. Since then, I've not only read 3 others this month, but several others in the last couple of years. And coming back to this was like coming back to a warm embrace of a favorite. The story isn't any different, but the work done by Seamus Heaney here is remarkable. We've talked in the past, the last couple videos, that a translator typically has 2 choices when it comes to doing a translation: to try to be as accurate, word to word, to convey what is being expressed by the original poets in the original language. Or they try to tailor it into something new, something more modern, their own interpretation of what is being said. Not going for, okay, this is literally what they're trying to say here, but taking putting their own personal flair on it. And many times they fall into one of those 2 camps. Within that spectrum, there's also the decisions of whether or not they try to be poetic or just translate it straight into prose. And if they're translating into poetics, are they trying to retain what the original had? Or are they just doing their own thing with it and translating it into verse? So there's a wide spectrum of ways in which things get translated. And this month, if you've followed along at all, I think has highlighted that issue more than anything else, because while the story has been the same all 4 times, the delivery has improved tremendously with each and every step along the way. I don't think it was intentional that way, but we kicked off the month with Tolkien's translation, which was done in the late 20s, I think it was, long before he was near the end of his life. And it was not something that was ever intended for publication. And so it is what you would expect from somebody who is a person that absolutely loves languages, loves words, and loves to tinker with things, and is a scholar of Old English. It is enjoyable, but it is not enjoyable as a translation. It's more enjoyable as something to really look at and be curious about how he approached it. Then we moved to the Michael Alexander translation of the Penguin Classics, which was a little bit more enjoyable of a read in terms of the translation itself. And then last week 2 weeks ago at this point, because I'm a mile behind, we did the Burton Raffle translation. And that was incredibly readable and enjoyable. And so I knew that this was at the very end. I knew that this one was probably going to retain its crown And there was no contest. Within about 500 lines, I could tell already. I didn't need to read another 2,500 lines to know this is the translation. Without question, definitively, Seamus Heaney. You'll probably find it with the head with the chainmail hat on, or the hood. It's so good because Heaney does both. He does a lot of retaining the original language, the beauty, the flow, the pattern, while also adding in his own little flair because he is a well-accomplished poet. And so he's able to make interjections. And so I'm pressed for time. I'm going to keep this short. But one of the things that I have found that I enjoy doing when I pick up a book that is a translation, okay, almost always there is going to be a passage. It may not be marked, but about this translation. And usually it's a page long. Sometimes, like in the case of Heaney, it's, 5-6 pages long. That tells you everything that you want to know going in as to how they approached forming this translation. And it's incredible hearing how he struggled with it and, was approached to do it and started on it and had to put it aside for years before suddenly it all clicked and he's able to go back and revisit it. And I think that not forcing something and letting it stew and simmer for years before being able to come back really paid off in this because it is magnificent. It is a perfect blend between maintaining the beauty of the cadence, the alliteration, the oral storytelling method that would have been used in Old English. Having the kennings, which are compound words that Old English like to just cram together. Whale Road being one of the most famous word hoard. They cram those words together to make one word, often in an expressive way. But Heaney not only does that, but he also says that he was freely willing to interject additional words when needed for poetic flair, for pattern, for the flow, for clarity of conciseness of what he's trying to convey in the translation of the line. So he's not doing a one-to-one, but it's still an extremely close and very, very accurate rendition of what is on the page with enough of his personality to make this an incredibly readable translation. So I'm out of time. I wanted to get this out here and say that I've got a couple more videos I'm hoping to get to later tonight, but Seamus Heaney, Beowulf. If you haven't read it yet, please do. This is almost the highest recommendation I can give to any work of literature, any written work out there, other than Tolkien and maybe Canterbury Tales. This is the pinnacle of things that I absolutely enjoy, and this is the translation that I positively advocate. That if you've never read Beowulf, put it on your list. It's short. It won't take you more than a day if you really want to sit down and dedicate your time to it. And you can knock this one out. No time at all. And almost certainly, your library has got a copy of this that you can check out. So there you go. I will catch you later. Thank you.